Hey, children. These are the notes from today, September 11th, day 8. And we're going to review distributive property. I'm just going to show you the distributive property part in order to make it a two-step equation to solve. Okay? So if we get to it, you're going to use the distributive property to simplify each expression. So let's say that this is going to be a two-step equation, and it's going to equal some number. All of these, they're going to equal some number, okay? But we're not trying to go and solve a two-step equation because I feel like we're pretty good with that. We just want to get from a distributive property for a problem that looks like this with parentheses to a problem that looks like a two-step equation, okay? So we know there's going to be some level of separation. But then we have here, that number that is outside of your parentheses, so in this case the 3, we're going to take it and we're going to distribute it to each term inside of the parentheses by doing multiplication. So what that would look like is 3 times x and 3 times that positive 8. So that whole thing there, including the sign in front. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 8 is a positive 24. And then it would equal whatever that number is. But now here we have a two-step equation and we can solve for x. Okay? So again, we have this next example. Now this one looks slightly different because we notice that there's an extra set of parentheses around that number that's outside of the two terms, and it's in the back instead of in the front. It does not matter where it is. When I see this, I need to know that I am going to go and distribute. Doesn't matter that it's still in parentheses. I'm going to take that negative 5 and multiply it times a. I'm going to take that negative 5 and multiply it by the positive 4. Negative 5 times a is negative 5a. Negative 5 times a positive 4 is a negative 20. And that equals whatever my number is. Okay? But remember, I've made it a two-step equation, so now I can solve for a, whatever my variable is. Okay, if we look at example number 3. Now this one's a little bit different. We have just a negative, and then we have parentheses m plus 6. And it equals some number that we're going to go and make up. We know it's going to be a two-step equation, so I get my line together. But it's like, what do I do here? You can always use this number as a placeholder, and that number is 1. So we can squeeze a 1 in right there. So it's negative 1. So if you have a negative just floating by itself, and you need to put a number there so you can know what to multiply, it is a 1. So this is negative 1 that we are actually going to distribute. Okay? And so I'm doing negative 1 times m and negative 1 times a positive 6. So this is negative 1m, negative times m equals negative 1m, and then negative 1 times 6 is negative 6, and then it equals whatever your number is. Okay. I want to put a note, or it could be written in this way. We don't often see it written with negative 1 like this. It's implied that the 1 is there. So you're more than likely going to see it like this. That negative 1 times m, they'll just write it as negative m. Okay, and if we do the rest, minus 6 equals a number. So if you see negative m, and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, that's so confusing, just put a 1 there. But in most cases, it's implied that the 1 is there, and so you don't have to write it when you see that negative with no number behind it. Okay? So we're going to go and do some more examples, and we're going to keep that same energy. This equals a number, because we're not getting to the part where we're solving. I will do an example over solving, but we're just making sure we can get from distributive property into a two-step equation. All right, so I know these are all going to be two-step. So I'm going to sit here. I have 9 parentheses 2y times negative 7. 9 times 2y, 9 times negative 7. 9 times 2y is 18y. 9 times negative 7, negative 63, equals some number. Okay? It doesn't matter. I'm getting it to a two-step. Now I can go and solve. Okay? So then we have this one. Once again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there's an extra set of parentheses or that the number is behind that expression. I can still distribute that negative 4 here, and I can distribute it here. Make sure you take that sign in front with you when you multiply. So negative 4 times c is negative 4c. Negative 4 times negative 11 is a positive 44. And then that would equal some number over here. And two-step equation. Just what I want. Now I can solve. So we shall do one more. Again, we have a negative, okay? Then we have parentheses 5e minus 3. If you don't see, okay, a number there, you can always put 1 as a placeholder. So negative 1 times 5e, and then negative 1 times negative 3. Super duper important to pay attention with that negative. So that is negative 1 times 5 is negative 5e. Negative 1 times a negative 3 is a positive 3. And then that equals some number, and now I can solve my two-step equation problem. So distributive property, again, is taking the number that is outside of the parentheses with the expression, and you are multiplying it by each term inside of the parentheses. And we do that to make it a two-step equation problem. So here's an example, and this is number 1 on your assignment that is due on Monday, okay? So this is solving two-step equations with distributive property, and I'm going to sign, and I'm going to go and solve this whole thing right here, okay? So you can understand what's going on with that worksheet. So we know it's going to be a two-step equation eventually, but I have this distributive property that I need to go and I need to do first in order to make this problem work for me. All right? So I'm going to take this positive 4, I'm going to multiply it times k. Then I'm going to take this positive 4 and multiply it by a positive 12, that whole sign there. 4 times k is 4k. 4 times positive 12 is a positive 48, and that equals 72. So now look, here I am with a two-step equation. Boom, I can go and work with that. And now I'm just solving as regular. So I would go first, I would go and find my constant, which is positive, okay, positive 48. Positive 48, and I'm going to do the opposite operation, and I'm going to subtract 48 on both sides of the equal sign. Okay? So what happens is that 4k comes down, positive 48 minus 48 gives me 0, so this goes away, and then this equals 72 minus 48. 72 minus 48 is 24. So now I have 4 times k equals 24. So I have a multiplication problem. 4 times k equals 24. So I need to do the opposite operation, which is divide by 4. So I can get my variable k by itself. 4 divided by 4, that will cancel out to 1k, which is there, equals 24 divided by 4 is 6. So that is how you are solving fully with the distributive property for a two-step equation. Once you distribute, you have now made a two-step equation, and then you can go and just solve for your variable.